This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me skinny rich friend and first mate.
Yeah, it's Mozz.
And joining us once again, or perhaps for the first time, our special guest, whom we do not know.
Yes, we don't know.
Hailing from parts unknown, Freddy Frostbear!
Yes. Oh, we love Freddy Frostbear. Tonight's episode, Chapter 11, The Heiress. The Mandalorian braves high seas and meets unexpected allies. Our director this week is Bryce Dallas Howard, which sounds super
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, of course, Jon Favreau gets our written by, gets our created by, and gets our based on Star Wars by George Lucas credits in this one. Wow, yeah. So this is fun. So, as we said last episode, it felt like a little bit of a cheat that, he just had to essentially, close the door and they could fly the ship. It's like, I want to repair it. We should repair it, but, honestly, we could have just left and finished the dang thing. But in this case, of course, what happens is, and here we do see the problems with this because obviously the ship is so damaged. As he's entering into this ocean world space, he basically the ship crashes and sinks. Everyone survives, thankfully. But, yeah, the ship crashes and sinks. And there is this idea to find... He's come here because he wants to find Mandalorians because the frog lady says, her husband says, which is a lot of telephone if you ask me, husband says, I've seen Mandalorians on this planet. Perhaps that's what you're looking for. And also, super convenient that they do happen to find Mandalorians on this planet. But in this moment, of course, he goes to the...
Well, to be fair, these Mandalorians don't seem like they try to hide their presence very much. They're a different breed of Mandalorians. So it's plausible that many people have seen and heard of Mandalorians being present.
Well, I mean, maybe the reason why they aren't hiding is because the people that tried to kill them, the Empire isn't really doing that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Empire is in disarray. And although they are this group of Mandalorians are constantly attacking the Empire, or the remnants thereof, the Empire itself seems unable to mount a real effort against them. We have essentially, honestly, because we have the Davy Jones characters. They had that leftover Pirates of the Caribbean mask from, also, so there's two fun characters, and one is the Mon Calamari mechanic, who I don't even know if he's a mechanic. He's just on the docks. He says, hey, can you fix this for me?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure they've got ears everywhere, ears eager to make a shekel or two.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, we do see that one of the Mandalorians is watching him, because we do see that there is a person with the cloak, and they disappear. And I believe that is supposed to be our
One of our modern...
Or Heiress, yes. What's her name?
Or, no, the Heiress would be...
Bo-Katan.
Right.
Bo-Katan. So it was played by the magnificent Katie Sackhoff.
Who also voiced
fun
the
fact,
character in the cartoon.
You stole my... I was going to say that.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's controversial in a couple episodes because Katie Sackhoff got asked back to be Bo-Katan, but another person, their actress, didn't get asked back for this. Although I think
maybe she didn't have the acting chops or the recognition that the show deserved. So I mean,
may not have been. Yeah, I mean, well, this is and that is actually a thing when people Tara Strong is the original voice of Harley Quinn. And so there were people who said, well, why didn't they just have Tara Strong be Harley Quinn?
She can act?
She's a fantastic actress. No, Tara Strong, she's great.
Oh.
But I think mostly it's that she didn't have the look that they wanted for that, the actress who is Harley Quinn had. So, that's a controversial thing, but, we'll get to that later. But anyway, but Katie Sackhoff, as we all know, from her history on Battlestar Galactica and being, an already nerd-approved sexy BA, she was fine for the role. So, but we don't get that yet because first what we get is after the Mon Calamari is working on the ship, the child and Mando go to a restaurant. Mando doesn't eat, of course, because he can't take off his mask in public, but the child gets the soup with the little spider in it that grabs onto his face.
Facehugger.
Yes. Of a little facehugger stew. It's delicious. And they get approached by an old salty sea captain who says, yeah, I can take you to the Mandalorians, which... I don't know, man. Just immediately when that happens, I'm suspect to these guys. These guys are very sus the whole time.
I think they're the imposter.
What was that?
Oh no, I just made an Among Us joke. I said I think they're the imposter.
Gotcha. I still don't know how to play that game either. That seems interesting, though. I would like to learn. But I feel like Mando is in that situation where he's like, if it's a lead, I gotta take it. And it's one of those things where if you know it's a trap, you can expect it. So it's like part of him had to have known. He thought he could handle it. It's like, I'm a Mandalorian. I have Beskar armor. You can't shoot me. There's nothing, so maybe that's why he went along. He must have known because there's no way you're right. He wouldn't have known that was shady as hell.
But of course they also, this is where you actually see, this is Mando's one weakness. He has Beskar armor, but not around his heart. And they immediately kick the child into the water, which is like, oh, the
internet. There's a creature in there. There's a creature in there.
Yes.
Can I say something? I think they probably should have pushed the Mando in first, because the Mando is known for killing people. So if they just push a thing, they'll make him more angry. They're probably gonna die.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they wanted his Beskar armor. That was the whole thing.
Although, they must have also thought, hey, it's going to be really hard to push a Mandalorian in the water, but if we throw the baby in, he'll go in on his own accord.
Exactly. And but this is one of these things that we do get in this that we kind of see repeatedly in this, which is that Mando is really a target constantly because he is decked out in bling.
Right. Right.
He's got this great Beskar armor, and everywhere he goes, he is like, oh yeah, it's Mando and his $8 billion armor that he just happens to be wearing everywhere he goes, But then at this point, the other three Mandalorians show up, and they basically make short work of the sea captain and his crew.
They all die.
Yeah, they all die, and then when Mando confronts them, they all take off their helmets. And Mando freaks out. He's like, where did you get that armor?
I don't think the Mandalorian knows that there's other group of Mandalorians.
Yeah. Well, it's what I've said from the very start. It's like there are Orthodox Mandalorians, and then there are Reformed Mandalorians, or from the Mandalorians' perspective, like the Orthodox Mandalorians are the Reconstructionists or the Reformed Mandalorians. They are actually the ones that are trying to rebuild something in the old ways. They're kind of like the Hasidim of the Mandalorians. And of course, within that entire concept, you also get into this idea about the homeland and returning to the homeland and fighting for the homeland, and the groups that say, we don't go back to the homeland because you don't. So it's sort of some groups will say, we don't return to. You don't return to Israel until the Messiah comes, and the Messiah takes you back to the homeland. You don't just sort of, we're just going to fight and take it back, because then it's not within the way of
then you're not deserving.
Exactly, and so that's a whole complexity. But in these moments, what we have here is Mando and Bo-Katan having to essentially have to come to a detente. Okay, have a gumdrop. That's fine. And Mando at first, he doesn't want to have anything to do with these people. But then when one of the Davy Jones guys, his brother, comes and says, "You murdered my brother," she shows up and says, "Actually, I murdered your brother. I'm going to murder you too." So they agree to this. They agree to the deal to basically rip off an Imperial ship. They're going to do a heist,
right?
And in this moment, and this is actually because we get a nice resolution to the whole egg issue in this one.
What's the egg issue?
Remember that baby Yoda, or that the child kept on eating the eggs.
Right.
Because we do see when he leaves the child with them, only one egg has hatched.
Right.
Which actually kind of opens up this idea that if you think about it, for this species, because these are like big species, probably only one egg ever hatches. Probably they lay lots of eggs, and for all we know, essentially once they all hatch, all the babies eat each other until there's only one. Right. We don't know their life cycle.
And not just that, but like certain things in nature are meant to feed other things, like the ocean circle of life begins with plankton spawning in numbers too big for the world to sustain in their natural life cycle. So there's other things that eat them, and then other things that eat them, and they sustain everything else. So some things are done for this purpose from a grander perspective. The puppeteer of the universe, physics, if you will, or nature, or whatever. But some things are meant for that. So for us to put our own morality that exists only in our little circle of beings onto something that isn't part of that circle is unnecessary, at the very least.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, what we can say is that, the child does learn how to accept that the thing is alive now, and it does differentiate what it is and what it's supposed to be. And he goes back to eating spiders. But in this moment, he leaves the child with the frog couple so he can go on the mission. And basically throughout the entire time, Bo-Katan keeps on sort of changing the mission and upping the stakes. Where it's like, I thought we were just stealing the weapons. No, we're actually stealing the whole ship. And
I will say, she gets things done.
Yeah, well, she is, as she said, she is the rightful heir to the throne of Mandalore, which is, in and of itself, also this kind of, I don't know, maybe a dark thing where it seems like she's almost unnaturally obsessed with it. It's like,
Like you can see her being pulled towards the dark side and justifying it in her mind with different reasons that might not really be legitimate.
Yeah, but that is what we're seeing here, and she is being pulled into this. She is getting Mando pulled into it, and that's of course where it gets to be maybe problematic for us as observers, is seeing Mando just sort of not being in control of his fate, and in the end, she really tries to recruit him into this. But he's like, no, I have my quest to do, and you're not going to do that. But before that, let's get to some of the fun bits in the battle for the ship with all the weapons. First off, you have the guards who lock themselves in the cargo hold, and then they basically, because they've taken over the ship, they eject the cargo hold so that all the...
And most of them die?
Yeah, they all die horribly. You know what? You agreed to be in the Empire. You have to expect... Yeah, people are going to die horribly. They blew up 2 Death Stars. You know this going in.
And soon a third one when the First Order comes. Technically, this is the First Order, but that's like
Well, this is
before.
what will eventually become the First Order, arguably. Although...
Like, how do they motivate these people to continue running towards certain death? They must have, like, a great plan to take care of your family if you are killed in the line of duty.
Well, I mean, if Finn's to be believed, a lot of these people were just sort of conscripted at birth. And they just don't know anything else,
Well, they just fixed that. Like Charlie said, they just fixed that. Just kidnap some children. They don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of child soldiers in the Empire and the remnants of the Empire, so... It gets dark in this universe. That's the thing. It's always important to remember. Every time anyone wants to say, oh, but the Empire brings stability, it's like, you bring stability, but you're also objectively evil. When you're objectively evil, no stability you're bringing is that good, Is
that really true? Or like, I mean, is the constant chaos of little factions trying to usurp their little peace, is that really better than having a relative peace that, requires a lot more sacrifice?
Have you ever, what was it called? I think it was called like A Tidy Little War or something. It was a Star Trek episode. And basically, these 2 planets have been at war for like 1,000 years. And what they do is it's just all a computer-generated war. And so every so often they'll say, oh, no, they attacked us. And so 5,000 of us must go to the disintegration chamber now. And they're like, are you crazy? It's like, but that is the nature of the fascism. It's like, yeah, first off, you're not trading a bunch of little warlords for the Empire. What you're trading is a bunch of little warlords for a local Moff who is just as much a petty little warlord.
No, I get that.
As we see from Moff Gideon.
As long as you're not one of the ones picked, the rest of your year or whatever goes pretty smoothly. It's like they did in the olden times where, the village had to sacrifice somebody for the crops to come in well or whatever, or stories like that. It's, so...
But arguably, that's the same in this current situation. So, for example, like under the Hutts, yeah, it's the same situation. Before the Empire rises, and the Hutts run the Outer Rim, and yeah, life was pretty easy until you ran afoul of a Hutt, or a bounty hunter, or someone else in Maz Eisley decided that they didn't like your face,
My friend doesn't like your face.
Exactly.
Right. But that sort of thing would be harder to do if there was an empire. No,
it's not. That's the thing. Because that's the thing. If you're
because otherwise, who is going to reprimand the offending party? Nobody.
Well, but the thing is, so like when you look at like the Scout Troopers punching Baby Yoda last season,
right?
That's because that's what they
it's unsavory, sure, but.
But what? But what's
the larger?
They bet him.
The larger point being, like, whoever has tried to come after the Empire has never gotten stuff together to a point where people didn't feel threatened, where people didn't feel like things were uncertain, where anybody had any sure footing about anything, and it was a wild, wild west all over again.
Can I say something?
Sure.
It doesn't really have it. But I just realized since I'm in the Empire, they had the 501st Legion. I was wondering if they had like the 212th and the other clone legions, or not.
Well, they probably have something like that. But in this moment, what it comes down to, and this is what I'm trying to say, is that yes. So right now there's competing factions and there's different warlords. What I'm trying to say is that the guys who become the Moffs, and Grand Moffs or Lesser Moffs or whatever, these guys would have been warlords in their own situation. In fact, they are now warlords. That's the thing. It's sort of like, when the U.S. went and toppled the Taliban,
Right.
All these warlords came into power, but then a bunch of other warlords joined with the Taliban. And the Taliban was just a bunch of other warlords that got together and said, okay, we're gonna agree that this is gonna be our organizing principle, this brand of this religious ideal, and we are gonna beat the heck out of the population every day to enforce our order. And that's the truth of it. That is the truth of it.
Is that what the Empire was implying?
Yeah, I think so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How did the talk about the Mandalorian turn into something about the Taliban and the Empire?
Well,
have you watched this show before?
I mean,
no, I haven't.
This is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we do, Tristan. Freddie Frostbear. This is what we do. And
you have gone away my identity. I must leave now. Goodbye.
Okay. But this is the idea that always these empires sort of mirror other empires and other structures that have existed, and in this moment, it's easy to look. It's sort of like when you say, "Oh, well, Rome kept the peace," but of course, kept the peace for who, and kept the peace in what way? Because obviously, if you're a Gaul, Rome's peace is not nearly as good as you think it is, And when you think about something, and they kind of make fun of this, and it's the classic, British imperialism, if you ever watch The Life of Brian. And they talk about all the good things the Romans are doing, And it's like, okay, yeah, that is true, but at the same time, what are the costs of that for the people of Judea? Or to give it a little heavier, what is the cost of all of the things for the people of India to be under British imperial rule? That does this imperial rule really help? Yes, it probably has selling points. It probably has advantages, but it also probably has a lot of disadvantages expressly because
is it possible
you're being ruled by, in the Empire's case, a human supremacist group that is pushing everybody else down.
But I mean, is it possible to generate the sort of consensus you would need to move the entirety of sentient beings forward without a little bit of that? And is it not just other factions seeking to have the same control, but painting you a different narrative to say we are the ones that deserve to be in that seat, rather than to say that there should be a different form of, or maybe none, governance at all?
If one wants to argue it, one can say that's what the trade union was about. That when the trade, I forget what they called them in the prequels. The Trade Federation. Basically, all of the corporations went up against the Republic, expressly because the Republic was not efficient and was probably, because the Republic was also very human supremacist, was probably also oppressing a lot of these other capitalistic ideals. And within that structure, that capitalistic ideal of, essentially, why do we need a central authority if we just want the flow of commerce?
Well, because I think what it affords you is a bit of security to say that there is an organization of parties that can descend upon you were you to go against the rule of what's been said.
And that,
can I say something?
Yes, please, Freddie.
I just wanted to say that even the Empire were kind of jerks to the Empire. Like, the Scout Troopers annoyed the Stormtroopers. The clones hated the humans hated the clones. It wasn't very stable.
Right, but for somehow they got all those people who hated each other to work together towards a common goal.
But did they? That's always
Didn't
the good.
they?
Well, I mean, if you really want to go deep into it, you could also even argue if you go into the Rogue One where literally... I mean,
if it wasn't for those pesky kids, they would have gotten away with it.
No, because the entire point of Rogue One is that the guy who designs the Death Star, who is literally forced because they kill his family or they hold his family hostage to make him design the Death Star because he's the great scientist, he's the great evil. In classic villain tropiness, we have your daughter now build me a bomb. Right. You know, he intentionally designs it with the flaw that causes it to blow up. So essentially what it is like, yeah, this group isn't. Here's the thing: if the Empire, like if you said, well, I don't want to build you a Death Star, they said, okay, well, we'll get someone else to build us a Death Star. That they say, no, have to build us a Death Star, or we will kill you or your family. That's when it's like, okay, now you've crossed a line. Now you are no longer a beneficent empire. You are a crushing regime.
Possible for any empire to exist without doing things like that?
Well, I mean, my argument is maybe we don't need a galactic spanning empire.
That's a different argument. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Speaking of
but if we're just trading it for another, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the basic problem with the New Republic is that it's trying to maintain a universal organization when a galaxy is a big thing.
Right.
And that's the idea, is that a galaxy is a big thing, and maybe what you need, rather than one central authority dominating everything, we do say, okay, look, maybe the central authority just sort of gives a lot of autonomy to the regions, and each region has its own thing. And the good and the bad of that is that sometimes the independent regions don't do the right thing. Yes, Freddie.
I just want to say something. In the start of like the Galactic Civil War, this was like before the Empire blew up Alderaan. Everyone did not see. It's kind of like in some wars where some people did not see who was the real bad guy. So, but until like they did something horrific, like blow up a planet, then everyone started to realize, hey, these Imperials kind of suck.
Exactly. And that is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an empire that is, as Leia says to Grand Moff Tarkin, the more you clench your fist, the more star systems are going to slip through your fingers. Which is actually the whole point, is that if the empire wanted to hold it loosely, they could be this organization, which is what I think the New Republic is trying to do. They're trying to say, this only works if you work with us.
Voluntarily.
Exactly. If you want to be a part of what we're building, you can be a part of what we're building, and we can share in the burden and work together, and you can maintain your autonomy. You know, you can be one voice of the many in this group. And that's what the Republic tries to be for the world, and what the Empire is trying to not be for the world, because the Empire is trying to just say, the galaxy must be one thing. And within this, we see that there's the whole thing about the Darksaber and Moff Gideon. You know, Gideon has a Darksaber, and like when Bo-Katan, faces the captain of the ship, he's like, look, yeah, I'm already dead, basically.
He commits suicide, kind of.
And yeah. It's like, you'll kill me or he'll kill me. What do you want from me here,
No, that guy, I appreciated, like, of anybody involved in the Empire or whatever, I fail to sometimes see, what motivates them to continue to be a part of it. For some reason, this guy, he was a really good actor, first off, but, man, you really got a sense that he believed in the cause. No question, not an ounce of doubt in his mind. When Moff Gideon said, you know what to do, he's like, it's my time to shine. That was his moment. Like, that was the first example of that I'd seen. That sort of loyalty towards a cause from their side.
Yeah.
There's actually a story about a clone trooper who was they made a clone trooper for the Empire, and he was completely loyal. And since he was a clone, no one respected him. But he was so loyal to the Empire that he would kind of do anything without a second thought in the matter. And once after his friend died, and he was trying to see who killed him, he found it surprising that was the first time he actually ever disobeyed an order.
Yeah. Well, because it's hard when you're in that position and then you find yourself disobeying orders, because that is the crux of the problem, is that eventually everyone wants to disobey the order. And along those lines of disobeying that order, we get in this central question with Mando. Just the fact that, after Bo-Katan has taken the ship, she has the weapons, she's, plotting her retaking of Mandalore, which I'm guessing is going to end poorly eventually, but we'll see what happens. She says...
Moff Gideon is running Mandalore right now because he has a saber, or...
whatever is on Mandalore, as Mando says, it's a plague world. It's dead.
Oh.
Whatever goes to Mandalore dies, So it's literally, and I'm guessing basically what it is that between the Jedi Wars with the Mandalorians and then the Imperial Wars the Imperial purges against the Mandalorians, Mandalore is pretty messed up. So fighting for Mandalore is probably something of a lost cause. And this is where you get this idea between the diaspora of the Mandalorians, the foundlings and those who were off-world, who have built their own Mandalorian culture off of the world, and those who seek to return to a place that has been decimated by wars for, the last 1,000 years. And that's the question with the Mandalorians and what they're going to be. But in this moment, obviously, Mando says, because Mando, it's not like he's opposed to fighting for her, but he has his other obligation. He has his side quest. So, he jumps off and he flies away on his back with his jetpack.
And also, it's sort of that sense of loyalty there too. It's like, hey, look, I needed help and they were there. How dare I not return the favor and be of help when they need it?
Exactly.
Those are Mandalorians. Those are my people. So regardless of whatever,
even if they're dirty mask taker offers.
Right.
In your opinion, do you think the Mandalorians still think of the Imperial Mandalorians? If you don't know, in the Rebels cartoon, the Empire took over a group of Mandalorians and made them Imperials. Do you think they still respect them as Mandalorians?
I mean, it's going to be, something like that. That's that complex question, where, I'm of Mandalore. I follow the way, but this is the thing I serve. And that's the anytime you have a diaspora, which is what the Mandalorians are right now, is you're going to get these different factions within the diaspora, where one's groups, and you can see this with Islam, you see it with Christianity, where there's all these different groups, and it's like, okay, we're all of this group, but maybe we don't respect this other member of our group because they do things differently than we do, and they see things differently than we do. What you can say about Mando is he clearly is very much, he has internalized the teachings of his group.
Right. And Freddie, to answer your question, I think it would have to come down on an individual basis. You would have to look at how they made that decision. Did it follow the way?
Exactly.
What that means, how you follow the way, could mean very different things depending on where you are, what your surroundings are, what pressures the environment puts on you. How does the way express itself with those pressures? And to have like a central tenet of the way without looking at how it gets to be expressed based on its environment is not a full look at whether or not you're actually worthy of someone's respect in that culture. So I think the Mandalorians would have to do on a case-by-case basis, which they do here, and he does with them, and they do with him, saying, yeah, you are a little strange, but you have your values. And he's like, yeah, I don't understand, that you're Mandalorians, but clearly there's something that we share.
Exactly. And again, it goes into that idea of, have you internalized the code? Is the code a set of rules that you say, well, this is what this says, and so I must hate this thing? Or does it say, I understand what the rules want me to do, and I can evolve within the structure of it in this moment. So, okay. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
Yes.
What's your final thought, Freddie?
I hope one day they actually make Imperials an actual threat instead of making them punching them.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think what we have seen with Moff Gideon.
Okay.
Yeah, his team are a threat. And as we're going to see in maybe some future episodes, there's some great tiebacks to what the old empire was that may be coming back in this, that maybe feeds into our first order. But we'll talk about that in future episodes. In the meantime, hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed listening to this show. I don't know when this is going to air, but you know what? We have a gift guide here on the Capes and Lunatics thread and Southgate Media thread, which is where our show can be found. And you know what? Whether it's for Christmas, for Hanukkah, for the 12th day of Christmas, for Kwanzaa, there's always something to buy a gift for, maybe just for somebody's birthday because you love them. Go to those gift guides, check those out, and if you can't think of anything else to buy them, why don't you go get them some nice, great Tweaked Audio headsets over at tweakedaudio.com, or get them Hunter-Killer from hunterkiller.com. At either location, you can use the coupon code Southgate to get a discount on the project. You can use it twice. Use it once there, everyone's happy. Likewise, if you go to our show notes, you can click over to Amazon and go to Amazon and buy anything you dang well please. Costs you nothing to do it that way. Helps out the show when you do. And while you're there, you can check out Pod Life, the book written by and for members of the Southgate, or by members of the Southgate Media Group family, for you to tell you why the whys and wherefores of podcasting. And that is written, that is available in both a hard paperback edition as well as in a digital book. All of
this sounds so cool.
It does all sound so cool, so people should buy these things. Freddie Frostbeard, do you have any social media that you would like to give out for people?
Go subscribe to my channel, Toxin Gamer 13. And speaking of Freddie Frostbeard, my new video, I actually beat him. I beat him up.
Very good.
Hey.
And that's Toxin Gamer 13 over on the YouTubes. Mozz, how can people find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where Mozz and Paz wants to do so, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And follow me. Oh, except you can't follow me because it was Monday night tonight, and I didn't do it. Live tweeting DuckTales, a woohoo for the final season. Monday night, 7 p.m. That is a very awkward time to put a show.
You never do it. Why?
I have done it a few times.
You always miss it.
I often miss it, yes. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality.
Jinx, knock on wood.
Thank you.
I always wait because I think he's going to do it, and then he waits, and then I was like, all right, but might as well go, and then we jump on each other.
Well, it's the chaos that makes it fun.
Yes.
All right, me hearties, you've sailed another day. Ooh, this time on an ocean planet. Oh, by the way, before we leave, I have to say I love the Mon Calamari jury-rigging his ship back together with all the cords and wires holding everything.
I gave you 1,000 silver pieces or whatever.
Yeah, 1,000 credits for this, but you saw how damaged the ship was. It's like, man, you're lucky I did this. But I love that's like my favorite thing in the whole thing.
Oh, we forgot about one scene where another facehugger tries to attack Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda keeps on getting attacked by spiders.
That's an interesting thing.
Spiders, yeah.
For as powerful as he is, I'm glad they keep showing us in certain situations how helpless he can be.
He is very helpless at times, yes, and we'll get more of that soon, I'm sure. Anyway, in the meantime, me hearties, swing back again next week and hop on aboard for new exciting romance on Full Stream Ahead. Arr!